name's Joe Cummins. I run and lead CybernetIQ, which is a cybersecurity automation tool for clearer visuals on what cybersecurity looks like. A little bit about my background. Next slide. These are some of the organizations I work with. I'm an entrepreneur in residence at Carleton University, and I really want to get into the meat of this and kind of pretty quickly. There you go. Formerly Red Tiger Security. Been in IT security since 2006, 2007. And prior to 2010, I was a professional hacker. I was paid by different governments and different organizations to come in, evaluate their cybersecurity from an offensive perspective, and then lend some of my insights in order to tighten their rule sets and actually do some effective cybersecurity for a switch, as opposed to just simply joining on about. Trained with a lot of 3- and 4-letter agencies across the world. Had a great time doing it, and was eventually adopted in 2010 to become the Deputy Director of the National SCADA Test Lab back in Ottawa as part of DRDC's, Defense Research and Development Canada's National SCADA Test Lab, to be able to take a lot of the technologies that we were seeing in the wild and actually bring them into an actual legitimized lab and then build some technologies for them. So my background is primarily critical infrastructure. I don't dabble very much in enterprise or incident response, but what I have seen across the world is actually pretty alarming. 2 years ago, I was invited for 6 months to work in the Middle East primarily to talk about the national level infrastructure over there, because the best way to affect us is actually to affect the energy infrastructure in the Middle East, because it has a direct impact on it. And I'm not sure about you guys, but I like to have fun on the weekends, and my boat takes gas. So there you are. What we've seen is a dramatic, iconoclastic almost swing since 2005, 2012 timeline, just dramatically increasing with Flame, Stuxnet, Dooku, just a couple of that are focused primarily on critical infrastructure. It's not going away. In fact, the malware strain for IoT that we've seen just recently has a variant right now that's going to be targeting control systems in the not too distant future. And this is the way I actually see the world. Right now, the energy infrastructure, the insurance that goes along with NERC compliance, or even having any type of assurance for a large oil and gas or energy utility, is just too much to bear. So a lot of these organizations, a lot of these insurance underwriters are actually underwriting a country, right, and their infrastructure. Sorry, I'm going a little bit too fast there. So what we've seen in the past 2 years now, 3 years now, is actually a dramatic upswing in operational tempo by an opposing force to be able to isolate, contain, identify, and control a lot of these infrastructures that are out in the wild, the vast majority of which have little or no defenses put in place. They're simply they're deployed, the service level agreement is signed, the commissioning documents are approved, and then they deploy out a control system. And it'll remain that way for the next 40 to 50 years, and nobody will interact with it, or limited interaction. We have a stat which is around 332 days, 334 days from when a 0 day is disclosed for a control system vendor to when it's fully patched. So almost a full year. Right, so I'm not sure if you guys, but if my iPhone tells me to patch itself, usually it doesn't let me get away with more than 12 hours when it starts reminding me over and over again. But we don't have that in control systems. More importantly, we're seeing these huge iconoclastic attacks that are taking advantage of buffer overflow vulnerabilities and actually going up the stack of different technologies all the way to the application level now. So you can run the same types of attacks that you see in enterprise devices against control system devices. And the difference here is that it's not a blue screen of death. You don't just get Windows shuts down and says, oh, sorry, I have to restart myself. You get Fukushima Daiichi. You get Deepwater Horizon. So that's the level of risk that we're messing around with when we actually talk about these systems. So from my perspective right now, we've got 3 major challenges. We've got 3 daunting hurdles to overcome. The challenges of what's the best way to secure these systems, what's the best method to collect the information that's necessary, and what's the best method to adapt best practices against these control systems and critical infrastructure to secure them more robustly. They all have the same problems, enterprise and control systems, just one of them has a greater deal of risk. So what we're seeing right now is these massive control systems that have these huge Mack truck level size of hole that you can actually effectively run any type of attack against. And more importantly, they're all based off of the Microsoft operating system at the baseline. So you know that you're going to walk into an oil and gas utility or a wastewater facility or whatever, and it's going to be running Windows 98 or Windows NT, or if you're really lucky, Vista, or, you know, insert the blank there. It's just, I hate to sound flippant or cynical, but after you see it so many times and you just kind of go like, well, there you go, there's another one, checkbox. And what's really impressive is that a lot of the best practices, a lot of even the early baselines could simply be done in order to limit the amount of hacks that are happening right now, because the vast majority of them are happening where the enterprise, the big bulky enterprise, all the printers, all the web servers, all the desktops and laptops and BYODs meet the control system. 4 weeks ago, I was doing an incident response for an organization who had their phone on the human machine interface for the big displays for this energy utility, and they had their phone charging off of the desktop there. And you know, you walk by, you're like, that's a phone attached to a control system, which probably has been, you know, sanitized for whatever term that is, but they've been air gapped effectively. And you're looking at that guy going like, well, that guy just basically messed up with your cybersecurity. So it's a culture thing, but at the same time, you're a bonehead and I got nothing for you, right? Sorry, one more. It basically looks like this. And again, my perspective right now on control system cybersecurity is pretty much that personified. So I thought I'd start this off by a couple of really good one-liners that I think work really, really well from the C-suite down to the external contractor or the enterprise contractor, depending. Our production system is air-gapped. The second I hear that, I know I'm dealing with a live fish on the line, and I could just start reeling in. Like, there we go. Our HMI, our human machine interface, shows that all devices and statuses are green, so we're good. But if anybody remembers Stuxnet, they had a centrifuge spinning out of control and everything was green, good to go. So, sure, okay. We have tight controls over all network access. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you think you do, but do you really? Are you sure about that? Our systems have been running fine for years, right? Always a great one. We use proprietary technology. Every time I hear the word proprietary technology, I cringe on the inside because to me, it talks about a limitation that everybody else faces that that organization or that vendor only has. And what we've seen in the environment, what we've seen in the community is that the second we get together and all raise each other up, we actually have a better ability to sustain and actually protect ourselves, become resilient. We bought the security widget from Company X and now we're safe, right? They've definitely drunk the Kool-Aid now. Fantastic. Your job here is done. I have my hashtag cert. There's a couple of certs I know that I hear regularly. And because I have this certification, I know what I'm doing and I'm now officially secure. I'm safe now. And then again, we brought in Security Group X. We know what we're doing. You'll never get fired. You'll never be told or demoted for bringing in some key names in the industry. If you do that, you're safe. But what people don't realize is that just by bringing in that organization, are you really safe? It's a safety blanket for sure for that moment, but is it actually going to be doing something effective? My favorite one is, we're okay, we have VLANs, we have virtual LANing, which is a technology from the 70s. So, yeah, 2016, still 2016. So, not working really. And again, these are all Fortune 50 CEOs that we've talked to. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. So how did we get here? A real reliance on big box IT security. We bring in these large organizations and they deploy. A lot of things get lost in the mix. Things fall through the cracks. The deployment process is going really rapid. So we've kind of skipped a couple of steps to get there. We have legacy devices that have been in the employ for 50 plus years and haven't been swapped out. Poor segmentation, network segmentation, so using different technologies to isolate different areas of the network. And then, of course, poor control mechanisms or no control mechanisms at all. Just 2 weeks ago, we showed up to an organization to do an incident response. And the first question I had to the organization, the representatives that they had assigned to me was, Show me your incident response situation. Show me the documentation. Show me what you did. Give me the step-by-step of what you did. And I got this dome-in-the-headlights look of, please, sir, don't hurt me. So right away, you're walking into an organization where you realize they have no idea what they're doing. They just simply took it from the last guy and kept on doing the same thing that was corporately or culturally acceptable. Again, tell me how you best want me to invest your money for you. I can give you a whole bunch of really great ideas, but at the end of the day, you can't buy security. You have to get security. Whether that's cyber, physical, temporal, you have to get it. You can't just wake up one morning and just go shopping for it. So a couple of examples quickly of what we've seen. This is an HVAC, a heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and cooling. And their HVAC is in their lunchroom. So anybody and everybody has unrestricted access to be able to control this data center's HVAC system. Like, fantastic, guys, great job. Like, why are we even bothering with the security thing? Dirty fingerprints on an oil rig, right? I know exactly what your password is now, and I can just one of 5 or one of 4 different ways to do that and then hit the 0 and I'm good. I'm able to open up the door. My favorite when I was in the Middle East was this one, where you can actually see their entire IT infrastructure at a national level framed on the wall because they're so proud of it. And of course, Jabba the Hutt's young sister is sitting in this chair, and I can see every device, every naming convention, everything. It's just like, here, have fun. Let me know when you're done. So the good situation, we know that there's a lot of challenges, but the solution is actually quite elegant. It's actually quite simple. What is needed is actually a lightweight risk analysis framework, something that we can bring into the environment. We can actually collect a lot of information that's just in the fMRIT and actually be able to take all that information, stage it in multiple layers so that we can begin to see where the critical paths are, to be able to see exactly if I was going to attack this system, where would I come from, or where are my defenses the weakest. So what we've actually built out in partnership with the Government of Canada is actually a tool set, so we can actually consume all this raw data, so we can actually visualize it. And the way I know that visualization works is as I walk across the room, everybody's eyes are following me now, we're all animals. Right? So why would I give somebody a tool set that is just a list of things, different processes, starting from the very top, the oldest, to the very newest? That, I don't know about you, but if I look at an Excel spreadsheet for more than 4 seconds, my eyes start to bleed. So I want a technology now that can consume all this information, this solution to consume everything, and then present it to me in a human-readable format, right? Don't tell me what's going on. Show me what's going on. This is that, this is this, and ultimately here. Okay, great. So again, big picture. This is a government agency that we worked with, and we actually took the first day, their firewall configuration, the first day, and dropped it into the technology and the solution to see all the different layers of their organization, from the corporate side all the way down to the actual technology that they've deployed in order to do the science of what their product is. And we can see right away that, hey, that's weird. There's this big red trough that goes right across. And upon further inspection, the first thing we see is they've allowed, by default, anybody on the external side to allow into their corporate environment across any IP address across the world on any protocol at any time. That's done. 5 minutes, I came in here, I grabbed a coffee, threw the two together, spun it up, dropped in your firewall configuration. The first thing I saw was that. I'm done. I'm going to write you an invoice and send it off. Have a nice day. More importantly, when they're saying that they're not air gapped, we're seeing now, and again, the outermost layer of the shell being the internet, and the innermost control system at the center, every layer consistently was able to communicate all the way outbound. So for a CIO or a chief information security officer or a Padawan learner at the ground floor of this IT security shop to see with confidence, wait a second, our control system is talking to the internet? What? And I've shown you that that exists. That's clear. That's 8.8.8.8, which is a DNS server for Google. Your control system is getting its DNS information from Google. I'm done. Like, I quit. Like, I'll see you guys at the bar. Next one. So now we have the ability to consume all this raw cybersecurity data, all this raw information, and actually stage it properly in a centralized threat console. So why is this relevant? Well, we've talked a bit about how the exchange of information is the key right now to be able to communicate it effectively. It is, but it needs to be relevant and timely. So to be able to take all this raw data, put it into either a TAXII or STIX format, which is the industry preferred method of communicating and sharing information, and to see whether or not your organization, your environment faces the same flaws, that's incredibly helpful. Because all of a sudden now you can see my organization just down the road, they had this event. Are we still vulnerable? Let's take a peek. Okay, we are. One more? I know I pretty much right on time right now, but I'd love to hear questions, and thank you very much for having me.